Here are the 3 most high impact skills that I have had to learn for my personal growth. And the first one is probably not what you think. It is absolutely the fact of saying no. And if I look back in the past year, the biggest change in my life has probably been the amount of things that I say no to. And the reason why saying no is so important is because if you don't say no to things, then how can you create time for the things that actually matter, the most important things that require time? And to create time for them, you have to be able to say no to other things, whether that be distractions like social media or things that literally hurt your health like alcohol and so on. But I'm afraid there's so many people who think that for you to grow you have to say yes to so many things, like say yes to everything, become a yes man who says yes to overtime, yes to all the extra tasks that someone asks you to do, yes to this, yes to that. But when have you ever seen a yes man go far and become extremely successful? Never. The people at the top are the ones who say no the most. Because you have to say no the most for you to even have time to focus on that one thing that you have to actually do to improve, to grow. So many people say yes to a lot of things, but none of them are the actual core thing that will allow you to improve and get better. And I can tell you a kind of funny story that has literally happened to me. I was at the university cafeteria. We were with a few buddies, and one of my buddies literally asked me, "Why don't you do anything fun?" Because I had sacrificed alcohol, I had sacrificed video games, I had sacrificed basically everything that these people around me thought were fun. And the question of why don't you do anything fun? It hit me. It made me question things. Because to me it was obvious that now that I had sacrificed the distractions and I was focusing on my own goals and becoming better, I was the happiest I had ever been. I was the most satisfied with my life that I had ever been. And yes, people will call you extreme. I literally spent Christmas alone, working, instead of being with my family. And yes, people will say that that's too extreme. That's so extreme. And they're right. It is extreme. I am extreme. But only with extreme action are you able to get extreme results. And that's what most people don't understand. They're not willing to sacrifice the mediocre ways of their life. And then they're surprised when they end up with a mediocre life. You cannot do what everyone else does and what is ordinary and then expect for you to get something extraordinary out of it. You can't have the visible abs if you eat like the average person and you train like the average person. Because the average person doesn't have visible abs. Because they don't eat correctly and they don't train correctly. And so it's in everything. And so when people call you extreme and they say that why are you saying no to all these things and why can't you just come and eat out and why can't you do this and that, just remember that it is those extreme actions that you partake in that allow you to get the extreme results that in the end everyone wants. The second most important thing that I have learned, and the skill, is to ignore fear and to just take the risk. For so long I was just like everyone else, afraid to take action, afraid to do the things that had to be done because I thought they were risky, they were scary. It's like facing a dragon and it's like, oh, the dragon is scary. but it is in the fact that the dragon is scary and it is guarding the gold that the opportunity lies. Because if it wasn't scary, someone would have already done it. Someone would have already done it and gotten the gold that is waiting for you. Because you can be the one to face Goliath, just like David did. Everyone else cowered in fear except David. And who became the king? Who became the legend? Who do we talk about? David. Because he faced Goliath. And one of the greatest tools that I have for you to get over fear and just take the risk and do what is required is to understand that fear is not even real. It doesn't exist. It is made up. It is complete baloney. So fear is not real. And the way to prove this is to understand that it exists only within your head. If you look in the outside world, do you see fear? Can you touch it? No. It is just like a pink unicorn. Imagine in your head a pink unicorn. Now a pink unicorn is not very scary now, is it? But the point is that that pink unicorn within your head exists only within your head. You cannot touch it and it has no influence over the outside world. And the moment you are no longer conscious of it, it disappears. And the same is with fear. It exists only within your head. It doesn't have any influence over the outside world. And the moment you are no longer conscious of it, it disappears. And so just like the pink unicorn, don't let fear control your life, because you wouldn't let a pink unicorn. And for all the people afraid, being like, well, what if I lose? What if the bad thing happens? What if I take the risk? What if I, put myself out there making videos and, you get hate and so on? What if you start that business and it fails and you lose a bit of money? What if you ask out that girl and she says no? Oh no, boo-hoo. What if that bad thing happens? Well, let me tell you something. It's probably gonna happen. And that's fine. You will survive. Just like you've survived many things before. The plan always falls apart. Never in the history of humanity has anyone ever achieved anything by perfectly following a plan that they made. Always something goes wrong. Always there comes some factor that you couldn't account for and then you have to improvise. That is life. And trust me, mistakes, failures, losses, they won't stop you and you won't die. And let's take a really extreme example. There are literally criminals who have done extremely big mistakes in their lives, spent years in prison for them, and they've come out, fixed their life, gotten their things together, and now they have built something. They're doing so much better than they used to. And I'm not saying that you should do crime. You definitely shouldn't. But even if you were to make a huge mistake like that and end up in prison, even then you can fix the situation at least somewhat. Even then when you come out, you can create a better life for yourself and the people around you, because people have done it. And so whatever you think you're gonna lose by, something small happening, in reality, it's not gonna affect you in any way in the long term. And so you've probably already survived so many of these situations that you thought were the end of the world, but they weren't. And so truly, every winner has had losses. But as long as you're not willing to quit and you keep trying, you haven't lost anything. And the moment you win, all the losses become meaningless. And so truly, if you don't take the shot, you will miss it. You truly miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and you just have to take action and take risk. And it is a skill that you must develop, to simply go and take the risk and ignore the fear and ignore the doubts, and only then will you be able to grow and improve as a person. And the third skill that you have to learn is quite obvious. It's discipline. It's one of those, oh yeah, of course. But the hardest truth about discipline is that most people don't understand that you have to learn it just like you learn everything else, through experience. You cannot learn football without touching the ball and actually playing. You cannot learn sales by just reading a book. You actually have to pick up the phone and start dialing. In The Wolf of Wall Street it says start dialing. Pick up the phone and start dialing, and that's what you have to do if you want to learn sales. You have to do it in order to learn it. So you cannot learn discipline from a book. That is the sad reality. I wish you could, but you cannot. You learn discipline by doing the stuff that you need to do so many times and facing that pain, facing that suffering over and over, and each time it gets that much easier. And eventually, after 1,000 times, it will feel like just breathing. You won't be even conscious of it. It's like your heart beating. It's happening, but you won't even be conscious of it because you simply did it so many times that now it has become a part of you. And so one of my great tips for how to face that pain and suffering in the beginning where it is the hardest, because if you think about it, just like choosing the stairwell over the elevator, the first step of the stairs is always the hardest. Not because it is any taller than any of the other steps along the stairwell, but because it is the one where you choose the stairwell over the elevator. And in the same way, the beginning is always going to be the hardest. And so how can you face the pain, face the suffering, put yourself through it? How you can find that strength to face it is by having a goal that is worth suffering for. You have to have a goal that is worth suffering for. Nobody will run a marathon for one singular chocolate bar. But if at the end there is a guarantee of $1 million, most people will run, they will crawl, they will fall and get back up no matter how many times it takes, because at the end the goal is worth suffering for. And so you have to have a big enough goal that is worth suffering for, and all of a sudden the pain and suffering that you have to go through to achieve it will be worth it. And then you can even create a story in your mind to give that suffering meaning. Give meaning to the suffering. And then it will feel like it is simply a part of your story of growth. Instead of, oh no, I'm suffering, it's, oh heck yeah, I'm going through an amazing phase of my life where I'm going through pain and struggle, and then in the end I will have a fantastic story that I get to tell the world, and then I will be just like the characters in the movies and in the books and in the whatever, because I have gone through pain and suffering. No one's story is worth telling if there is no challenges, if there is no adversity. And so when you have that adversity and the challenges that cause pain, be happy. Create a story in your head that this is exactly the part and the thing which will make your story, the story of your life, worth telling. And one day, as long as you don't give up, you will be able to tell that story, and you can be proud of yourself for having one of the most fantastic lives that a human could ever live. And remember, in the end, given enough time, the optimist always wins. Given enough time, the optimist always wins. And so go out there, chase your dreams, stay disciplined, and have a fantastic day.